And now back to that other high-stakes trial we are following for you. Day 4 in the trial of the 3 men charged in the death of Ahmaud Arbery underway now. Earlier today, jurors heard a recording of that first call placed to Glenn County Police the afternoon that Ahmaud Arbery died. ABC News' Alex Presha joining us from outside the courtroom there in Brunswick, Georgia, with more. Alex, walk us through what we have heard this morning during the trial. We've obviously been following both of these trials, one there in Brunswick, Georgia, also the other in the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Bring us up to date now. We haven't talked for a bit on what's happening there in Georgia.
Well, Kira, you were mentioning that 911 call. That was brought up through testimony from neighbor Matt Albinzi. And if you remember in some of the surveillance that we saw yesterday, we saw a gentleman riding his bicycle down the street shortly after Ahmaud Arbery was shot. That was Matthew Albinzi. And we learned through testimony this morning that he had actually seen Ahmaud Arbery in front of Larry English's property earlier in the day. Albinzi was out removing some wood from a fallen tree in his yard, and he saw Arbery standing in front of the English property. He says that he thought it was a little bit odd, so he decided to grab his cell phone and grab a pistol, and he walked down the way behind a tree and called the Glenn County Police Department. What's interesting about this in his testimony, and the prosecutors really kind of drilled down on this, is that he did not call 911. He called what they called a 7800 number, which is the Glenn County non-emergency number. And the prosecution asked him why, and he said, well, because it didn't seem like an emergency. He also testified to the fact that he just saw Ahmaud Arbery wearing his T-shirt and his cargo shorts and his running shoes, and it didn't seem like that he had anything with him, and also that he did not see Arbery take anything from that open construction site at the Larry English property. And what's going on right now is we have another Glenn County investigator, Stephen Lowry, who's testifying. I stepped out of the truck, so I'm not hearing everything, but they were going through some of the pictures on Roddy Bryant's truck, some of the dents, and we heard about smudges and fibers left from that chase with Ahmaud Arbery. A couple of times there has been testimony brought up that Brian had tried to cut Arbery off a number of times, and the defense has argued at times that Ahmaud Arbery tried to open the door. Well, going on right now, we're hearing testimony from investigator Lowry about the pictures that he took subsequently after of Roddy Bryant's truck. But probably the biggest thing that's happened today is we've seen some presence in the courtroom from attorney Ben Crump. You're familiar with him, obviously. He was involved in George Floyd and probably most notably the Trayvon Martin case almost 10 years ago. He is in the courtroom today on behalf of the Arbery family, showing support to both Wanda Cooper Jones, Ahmaud Arbery's mother, and Marcus Arbery, the father of Ahmaud. And so they actually, he's been here all day along with Lee Merritt. And then we also had a press conference during our lunch break with Al Sharpton.
So, you know, Reverend Al Sharpton speaking there today, praying with folks there. You mentioned Ben Crump, who's representing the family, also Lee Merritt. You've also got the NAACP that is there. I had a chance to speak with the president yesterday, Derek Johnson, also talking about the local chapter that's been so involved, Alex, with this case. What do you think, just this show of force on behalf of Ben Crump, of Lee Merritt, of Reverend Al Sharpton, and the NAACP, what kind of message does that send to the family, to the black community, to really the entire country as we watch a trial that is just so racially charged there in Brunswick, Georgia?
Well, I didn't mean to cut you off, Kira, but I mean, I think first and foremost, they're trying to show support to this family, to let them know that it's not just the community here in Brunswick that is behind them, but also people from around the country. And so it was important for attorney Ben Crump, as he mentioned today, and Lee Merritt, and also Reverend Sharpton, who said that, look, he wasn't supposed to be in Brunswick today. He actually rearranged his plan specifically to be here today to show that support to this family. But I think also whenever you have these national entities that parachute on this tiny town, a lot of it is about bringing attention, renewed attention to this case, and not just what's going on inside the courtroom, but also whenever it comes to the way these types of investigations are handled. We heard Attorney Ben Crump earlier today on the steps of this courthouse talk about how he had frustrations about just how these defendants were initially treated by responding officers and how this scene was processed and in what world, according to him, would you see, you know, a father and son, a black father and son who had just shot a man, and responding police come up and ask immediately, "Are you okay?" And not at least try to detain them while the scene is being secured. And so those are lines that we've heard from Attorney Ben Crump, Lee Merritt, also Reverend Al Sharpton, and going forward, you know, they're going to try to bring attention to the handling of this case. Actually, I got a chance to ask Reverend Al Sharpton about this, because at this point, I mean, he drew parallels to Trayvon Martin, he drew parallels to George Floyd, but one of the things that I wanted to drill down on is now day 4 in this trial. What stood out specifically to him about this case? And take a listen to what he said.
That when we hear a judge say that there may have definitely been racism in jury selection. 2, when we hear self-defense or defense when they've never established an offense. And 3, that when we hear a judge say that there may have definitely been racism in jury selection. 2, when we hear self-defense or defense when they've never established an offense. And 3, when you have the first people from law enforcement and medical examination come to the scene and admit that they did nothing to try and keep this young man alive, that they had already said that they felt that there was nothing they could do, and watch him die, which is like George Floyd, which is why the laws need to be dealt with, and which is why we need the national spotlight on these cases. Let's remember, when Ben Crump and then a week or so later, I got involved in a Trayvon, nobody ever heard of Trayvon. That's right. When Ben Crump called me, I'd never heard of Trayvon. When Ahmaud Arbery happened, I never heard of this case. I never heard of Brunswick, Georgia. And I used to stay in Augusta with James Brown. When I first had Father Marcus on my show, we first started hearing about it. We show up because that's what we do. Yes, we show up. Yes, sir.
So again, you hear the Reverend Sharpton talk about, yes, it's showing support to this family, but also very much about bringing attention to this case and the way it's been handled thus far. Kira?
Alex Presha there outside the courthouse in Brunswick, Georgia. We will continue to check in with you. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.